I know big YouTubers normally do this, but just got a little bit of time to burn. So for about half hour, I'll sit here. If someone joins the stream and asks a question, I'll try and answer it. If not, I'll just fiddle around. Trying to think of people. Some things they've asked. Like I know one guy asked about animations. How do you do double jumps? How do you change an animation? Stuff like that. So I thought I'd quickly. Yeah, I feel like shit again. This is awesome. So, for anyone who doesn't know what Dreams is, it's a creation suite. If you know what Dreams is and you're just stuck, then it's like depends on what you're stuck on. I think I've stated before, this kind of stuff, I'm at kind of the medium level. I wouldn't call myself an expert in any way when it comes to this. There's certain people on Dreams that are way better than I am in this. Sculpting, I'm higher end. I am struggling with certain aspects, mainly because of my sketching and like real life art, like the sculpting and stuff like that. Real life thing as a designer slash architect slash artist. When I was younger, I've probably forgotten more things about architecture and stuff like that than a lot of people at school have learnt about the subjects that they're learning, but not getting into that. But that's why sometimes, like if I wanted to just say sculpt a head, sometimes when like I'll hit a stride sculpting away, it's like I'll hit the stride and go, oh, I'm actually doing things like I would in real life, and it's working. Other times I'll do things like I would in real life, and it's like I'm struggling. It's like it's not working. How do I get around this? Practice, 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 practice. Knowing what the tools can and can't do is a massive help. And the only real way you can figure that out is by testing. I think I've stated it before in some of my streams. In Dreams, there's no real you're doing it the wrong way. It's more, could there be a more efficient way to do it? Maybe. Could there be an easier way to do it? Maybe. Are you doing it the hardest way possible? That's quite possible. But there's no right way to do it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So, like here, I'm just trying to sculpt a simple head. So I'm going to grab them. Now, the blend tool, there is certain parts of the blend tool that doesn't act like it would in real life. So that's where it catches me out. Also, sometimes too, the controller does not want to behave itself, but that's not Media Molecule. That's Sony. So like when I'm sculpting my head, I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm drawn because when I do my artwork and stuff like that, I'm normally I've never really been good at realistic, detailed drawing of heads and the hands and the feet. The body, yeah, I get that great, but the feet I always struggled with, so I normally stylize it a little bit. I wouldn't put all the finer details like the joints, the knuckles, if you want to call them that, on your toes and stuff like that. The shapes, I'll more or less like give them the general shape, but not going to that's exactly the shape because I'll always get it slightly wrong, and it frustrates a little because I don't want to call myself a perfectionist, but I like, which is the reason why a lot of these game companies and stuff like that are bringing shit out. It's annoying the living shit out of me. It's like, don't they have pride in their work? Like, good example, CDPR. Don't they have pride in their work? And it's like, obviously not, or they wouldn't have released the shit they released and continually not fix the shit that's wrong. That's why a lot of the stuff I'll create, it's like, delete. Or keep, I've got stuff I've got done early and I've still got it saved because I'm thinking to myself, okay, I could go back to it and fix it and stuff like that. But it's like, I have no, hey viewer, if you got a question, throw it down. But it's like, I struggle with like, that's not perfect, that's not perfect. But I'm not a perfectionist. I know I'll never get it perfect, but I want to get it as close as I can. And that's the struggle I have with Dreams. Like, I think I've spoken to about it before with the whole dynamic cloth joints. Just to quickly run through joints. If you don't know what Dreams is, or if you do know what Dreams is and you're struggling with the same thing, you know what I'm talking about. Let's turn X-rays on so you can see what I'm talking about. In Dreams, you can't have a bending object. So it's not like in Unreal Engine or anything like that, where you can have like the elbows and stuff like that, and they're actually one piece and they bend. It's, if you look here, you can see here there's your skeleton, that little white line that goes up there. The little purple thing in the middle, that's the joint, the pivot. And then yellow is the parent, and the blue is the child. That's the term used. Parent is where it originates from, and child is where it ends up. So this joint here is obviously attached to this, so this is its parent, so that's where it originates from, and this is its child, so that's where it goes to. So if you want to do like IK or inverse kinetics or that sort of stuff, that's, if you know anything about computer stuff, which I have dabbled in, Unreal Engine uses it, all the other ones, they all use it. When your character moves, when the foot hits the ground, the joints go, okay, that's hit, this joint has to do that, how far can the joint move and stuff like that. And you can actually go into the joint, tell it how much it's allowed to move, if it springs back to its original location, stuff like that. So if, for example, you have a dead body or something like that, if it hasn't hit rigor mortis, then that would be no springiness, no tightness and stuff like that. It's got maximum movement because your muscles aren't there to stop the joint from going where it shouldn't go. But when rigor mortis hits, it usually stiffens up. And if you're alive, usually there'll be some sort of springiness or something like that. So if you wanted to make, for example, like a dead body, you'd turn all these joints here to like no resistance. You'd have all the mechanics telling it that it's got to stand up, be turned off, and it would just slump. And normally when I do that, I'll just grab a copy tool. Let's copy it. You'd come in, you'd like turn that off, and then when you go to play mode, it's still standing there, even though I'm moving around and say, well, that's not right. So you'd come in, you'd make sure that all the stuff in here, like all these joints, you can come into there and go, okay, none of that's to be active, none of that's to be active. They're all like that. Then you'd come into the where are we? The actual thing, and you turn all the body pieces that they're all to be movable. So make sure the movable's on. They're all collidable, whatever. The density, they all to obey gravity and stuff like that. And you just keep tweaking until you get the body to slump. Now, obviously, in Dreams, you can't do it like in Unreal Engine, where you can just turn and say, oh, okay, this character here is no longer alive. It deactivates it, like how I've turned that off, because half this stuff in here is still active, even though it's not there. So if I delete it off, let's leave that one there. If I just delete them all, and then try it, and in Dreams, like, the only way you'll figure out what needs to be done is by sitting there. Like, that didn't work. So it's like, I can bump into it, it still stands there. It's like, okay, what's going on here? So it's like, okay, let's jump into these. We'll grab the legs to start with. We'll go, okay, click. Click. Now these here are ball joints. These are hinges. So I'm going to grab the ball joint because it's got the extra one. And we'll grab the hips as well. And then while we're in here, we can go, okay, that's at nothing, that's at nothing. Angle, turn that right up. So we've got angle. There's use limits, we can turn that on, or we can leave it off. We'll turn the rotation lock on. Collide with connect, we'll turn that on. And then test it. It's like, so now it's doing that. Now I know what's causing it. It's the collisions, but like if you come in and go in and go, oh, one more. If you click that one, you can see here what's it collide with. It collides with everything. So ideally what you need to do is go, okay, so we'll grab that. I'll even grab the feet. And we'll grab the hip just so we can, okay, it's to collide with everything except for the machine. And then we go, okay, those things are labeled as a machine. So they won't collide with each other now, but they'll collide with everything else. And that will stop that, you know, it was weird positioning. See, now it's not doing that weird positioning, but it's still standing up. It's like, okay, how do I fix that? The way I've been doing it is I've been going into the actual, like that part, so I'm to there, and then I'll just go in there and go click, and then if we double click, you select all its children as well. And while that's there, you can copy, I think I've got it right here. And see, I've copied it, but I haven't copied the actual, the chip. So that is chipless, but it's got the settings of all that. So it's not a turned on one, it's a turned off one. And it should have, let's double check, copied all the settings I had set for these things, which it has, because you can see there, collisions are on, it's at the 180 degrees. So this puppy here has literally no brain. It's literally just sculpts. So if I now do it, that one falls over because it doesn't have the brain. And that's how I've been doing it. But that's not necessarily the right way to do it or the wrong way to do it. It's the way I do it. Other people might find a way of, oh, they'll turn certain things off, certain things on, or do a certain animation, or up the density, or something like that. And then once I've done that, I can literally, I can delete him. Ah, it's still attached. Okay. In one. Make sure they're all like that. Go like this. Take it out, and just to make sure that they all stay together, let's grip them. I always forget to do that. Now I should be able to delete that one. I should stay. Now we've got an actual puppet and a copy of the actual puppet, but that slumps. But let's go in here and we'll grab all these extra joints here as well. I'm not going to be too fussed if I miss certain ones. Actually, you know what? The wrists don't matter. Let's not grab the wrists. Grab that one. Grab that one. That one. That one. That one. I'm not going to grab the head one. Grab ball joint because it's got the extras. Turn that on. Turn that on. Those would be off. Angle at max. That's all good. The angle at max doesn't matter because it's got that turned. The angle restrictions are turned off, so it doesn't matter. But out of habit, I do it. So if I do accidentally one day click on it's going to be a max. So now when I play, it's like, okay, I have. Hello, what happened there? Let's try that again. Why is it? Ah, because I only told the bottom pieces not to collide, didn't I? I gotta grab the tops, I go in, grab all the top ones, do the same as what I've done before, you know, tell it that they are all to collide with everything except for machine, and that they are to be labelled as machine. That's what was causing it. They were colliding with each other and flinging them off in the distance. So now it shouldn't do that. There you go. Now obviously that, which I've seen a lot of people do, that is not what a body reacts like. So you got to go in here. I didn't worry about that one, so I'm going to grab the ones I did do. Let's grab them. Click on that, so I've got it. Now, if you watch your stream afterwards and you have a question, it's like, by all means, if it's a decent question, I don't mind it if you throw it in the comment section and all that. It's like, but don't be one of those trolley guys that go, oh, why do you only do this, or why do you only do that, and you don't really actually care, you're just trying to stir trouble. Don't be one of those guys. So I'm going to turn the limits on, and we're going to go, what's the max you normally move it, John? We'll go at 90 degrees, so we'll go a little over 90, so I'm going to go, we'll go 110, that sounds good. That should have adjusted all those to 110 degrees. Now if I then play it, that's a little bit better. Now obviously you could turn the stiffness up, you could turn the springiness up and all that, and you play with it until you get it to just how you like it. And that's how I go around doing my thing. But as one of the things was like, how do you do a double jump? I normally try not to just. Most of mine are created from the standard blue puppet, which is what they call the deluxe puppet. There's a standard puppet which literally just does a jump, doesn't have any of the bells and whistles. This one has like the jump animation. It has poses, so you can come into here. You can adjust idle. You can adjust the run. This pose here is the pose it does when it runs. You can also check that by get on left shoulder and square, L1 and square, and you can click down here to change. That's the pose it does on the run. It will automatically start recording and stop the record. There's your jumps, which are also here, by the way. There's your sound effects. So if you want the puppet to make a deeper sound when it's moving, you can go, for example, like sound effects, open that up. There's all the sounds it can make, because it's Media Molecule have made it in a way so that in theory you could literally just grab this puppet, plonk it into a scene, and it'll work. Certain features like activating something isn't necessarily in there, but you can add that. But getting off track again, the way I do a double jump, and again, you might have your own way of doing double jumps, but the way I do it is I'll run a what I call a pass-through. It's just a standard node through the jump peak, because that's where your double jump would happen, at the peak. I would then run that into there and then grab the other side to there. And the reason I do this is so I can now deactivate the peak. But you don't want to just deactivate the peak. That's pointless. What you're trying to do is add a double jump, but the double jump's going to be in the same spot as the peak. So if you come in, before I get ahead of myself, if you get to the puppet, oh yeah, you can go to play. By default, it doesn't have the double jump, it's got the single jump. But if you come into the puppet and go, okay, well, the entire puppet, select that and go, okay, we'll turn up the double jump, and double jump could be twice as high. So if a standard jump is 1 meter, it does 2 meter jump. So now when you come in, and if you in the puppet and you jump and then jump again, it does the double jump. But it's still just doing this exact same animation. But by default, if you just add, we'll go, open this up, grab a pose like this, and just how we want for the double jump, we want it, the arms to be, for the character to be more like a star jump. So we'll go, say it like that, and like that, and like that, save it. Then we'll grab the double jump spot, we'll go like this, straight to there. It'll activate. I've got a tendency to, I'll check how they got that setting. So it's got a little bit of that, and that. So I'll come in and I'll make sure that, to keep it so that it looks like it belongs, I'll just copy those settings. So we'll go 15. You don't have to do that, but I try and make them so that they fit. If I now come into here, get my puppet, and I'll do the double jump. It is attempting, as you can see, it's flicking, like for like an ever so slight pulse. Unless I hold the button, it doesn't really make it much different. You can see it's trying to do the emote. So what I'll do is I'll come in and go, okay, from the double jump, I'm going to grab a pulse, which is that one there, and we'll pulse it. Normally I go about half. A little bit lower, a little bit higher is fine, depending on how much difference the double jump has. And then from the double jump, where is it? There. We're going to run a pulse and run that to there. So now when you do it, it should be a lot more noticeable. But it's still playing the other animation as well. So unless you want a blended animation, then that's not going to work. But if you want a blended animation, so you want to do the original animation but add an extra the head to go further back or the arms to go slightly further out, then that's fine. But if you wanted to overwrite this one, and that's the reason I put this here, you could either run a not gate from this to turn it off, or you just, while that's at playing, have it also turn that one off, and that'll work. So now, when this one plays, it will deactivate that, which will turn that animation off, and you'll have your full star jump. So if I come in here, single jump's fine. If I do my double jump, it's doing like the star jump. Now, the reason I say you put the pulse and then you set it at about half, if I come into here and get the pulse, and we'll turn it up to 4.5, a little bit, that's way too long, I can tell you now. If you do that and you jump, as you can see, it takes that long for it to play. So you've got to figure out so that the animation ends before it hits the ground. You could also, and this is why I said there's no real wrong way to do it, you could also use the, where are we here, on ground, so that you could go turn around and say, up here, let's make it longer so you can see it, that when, grab that, when it's on ground, it's to turn that off. So you can go, okay, so we don't want it to be when it's on the ground to turn it on, we want off, so we go knock gate to there, and then we're not running it through that, we're running it through, oh yeah, we'll leave it like that, and then we can go to there, to there. So only when it's in the air can it do the second double jump, because when it's on the ground it will turn that off. When it's off the ground it'll turn that on. You could also use these ones here to turn that on. Or there's a, where is it? There's a distance from ground. Where is it? Predicted landing, landing impact. You could use that one as well. There is distance from ground. You could turn around and say if it's where are we? Calculator greater than. Now if I run that into there, it does have its test number there, but I still got a habit of grabbing a number thingy, running it from, we'll run it from there, so it's not interfering. That number will display there, so if I come in here and go, when I jump, you'll see it flickers. But because obviously it's not a full number, it's only a partial number because it runs off decimals, you'd come, like that, come into here, make sure it's at multiple decimals, so you can see the fractions. And you come in, you can come in, and you go, okay, so a normal jump is a 1, and so you can go, okay, it's got to be greater than a 1, greater than a 1, it can double jump, and if it's less than a 1, it won't double jump. You could also use that technique, so I'll show you what that technique looks like. Greater than a 1. So if you come into here, so that's there, greater than a 1. It can then deactivate. Oop. Got that on that. So that will only activate if the distance from the ground is greater than a 1. No, because you won't be able to activate, so therefore it'll only get 2 or 1. So you get greater than 0.9. That means when it's within the last 10% of its peak, so just as it gets to the top and just as it starts dropping down again, that's the peak. If it's in that range, double jump can activate. This way, it'll activate, but when it hits the ground, it deactivates. It takes more chips, more calculations and all sorts of stuff, but it does exactly the same outcome. So you could adjust the timer of that, or you could add one of these, or you could add the other one. Like, there's a million and one ways you can do it. Or maybe not quite a million and one ways, but yeah, there's a lot of ways you can do it. And this way has the exact same outcome as the other way. So long as when this is active, that's deactivating, I'll get this full animation. If I want it that and that blended, I don't need this one. So that's That's how I approach like something. How do I get this to work? I'll do something that, okay, look at it, yeah, that works, but I need that to do this, and it's doing that. How do I change that? So in this situation, I'll get, okay, to start off with, I was literally just going, okay, add the double jump, add this keyframe, and it was blending. It's like, okay, I need to turn off the peak because I don't want it to blend. So, okay, add that there, and I was doing the keyframe to turn it off. But then, okay, what if I change this one? I forget to add the turn that off. So that's when I started adding the not gates, which are those, to that, and then adding that to there. So this way here, doesn't matter what I do to this keyframe, it's always going to turn it off. So in the long run, if I go, okay, I like this puppet, I want to change that animation, I can come in here, alter the animation, or add a new one, go delete and add a new one, and then, oh crap, I didn't do that. I'm going to go back in here. But because I've got this chip here now, I don't have to worry about it because it's going to do it anyway. And if I ever want to do the blended technique, all I got to do is delete that one and run nothing into that, and it blends. I could literally just delete this cable here, like, boom, gone. It's always on now. So that's how I do that. Making a dead body, so when this puppet dies, it spawns a dead body. There's a lot of people go, oh yeah, I can just go into here when it gets to where is it? To no health, run a spawner. But like, you got to remember that when that happens, the puppet, it doesn't send a signal when it dies. So when it dies, it's not going to send a signal out. So you have to make sure that you add, for example, you could turn around and say, okay, where the puppet is, we're going to add another chip. Grab a blank chip. Okay, we're going to attach it to the puppet, but we're not going to put it in the puppet. So this is going to move with the puppet. And then inside here, you can turn around and go, grab this one, and again, grab a pulse, now it doesn't matter how long you make this pulse, you could turn around and say, okay, pulse, 0.2 of a second. So when it dies, 0.2 of a second it's going to send out a pulse. This is where I had to do a lot of testing myself, because I didn't want to look up tutorials and all that. So okay, let's hide these. Let's grab a copy of this one here. Let's hide these. We'll move this. It doesn't matter where you move this to. You can also attach it to the thing, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's just going to plonk it up there somewhere. Now, when you add a emitter, there's settings in this that confused me at first. It's like emitting speed, emitting rotation, like once or continuous, lifespan, emitted at once, maximum emitted. Like it's emitted at once. What do I mean by that? Maximum emitted. What do I mean by that? A brief one is maximum emitted is how many can be spawned into the scene at once. If you set that to example 10, once you hit 10 are in the scene, or it's been emitted 10 times, it won't let you emit anymore. So I don't normally touch that. This one here is how many can be in the scene at once. So it's this one's how many the emitter can emit. So it's sort of like an ammo counter. This one's more of a render thing. It's like how many can we render before we say no more. If you've got, for example, this is 20, it can emit 20, and then it'll go, okay, there's 20 in the scene, we can no longer emit anymore, and it won't let you. So that's why you'd adjust this one, which is time. I'm not going to worry about it now, but you could adjust the lifespan to a shorter period of time. At the moment, they'll stay there indefinitely. If you say 10 seconds, the emitted object will stay there for 10 seconds and then despawn, which will open up another slot for another one to be emitted. And unless you plan on dying continuously for rapid concessions of more than 20, then 20 is fine. Like, if you die 20 times, you can go game over. But you see the little white dot, that's where it's going to be, the emitter is going to emit the object from. And because it will this one here collides with that, because we copied that, so if we come into this puppet and grab all those pieces, it should collide with everything except for machine. So it shouldn't collide with the puppet, which is good, because then we can just, when we tell it to emit, we can say, okay, emit that object to fall in that direction at 5 meters a second. Now that, because it's a dead body, it's just going to slump. Let's turn that down to 0.5. So only nice and slow. Now continuous means it's going to all the time. We only want it to emit when it happens, so we go once. So that there will now emit one object when the thing is hit. And we don't want to emit from up there, so we're going to move this white dot to roughly the same location as the puppet is at. That should be all we need to do with the emitter. And then we can just run the signal from there to there. So it should now pulse 0.2 of a second upon the death of the puppet. Now, at first I thought, oh yeah, that'll work fine, no worries. And then you get play. Oh, I better add a quick chip so you can kill yourself, eh? There. Let's just add a health modifier in here. 100 points will be taken off when this is activated. Let's have a zone, nice big one. And we're going to make it, when we hit, at the moment, circles depossess. So we're going to go, when I hit circle, it's to do 100 points of damage to the puppet, which is its full lifespan. It will then die. So when I hit the button, you'll see that where I died, it's left the body. And because it's attached to the puppet, if I die over here, it's slumped all the way over there. Now I've gone, okay, so that all works fine now. So yeah, okay, beautiful. So I started, okay, let's start editing the puppet. But the second you start editing this puppet, let's close these. Let's open up that one so you can see that one. Yeah, it's a copy of this puppet, but if I change, for example, okay, I want to make it a female puppet, some boobs. It hasn't added the boobs to that puppet. And I've gone, damn it, doesn't work like that. I still haven't figured out the best way to do it, so when you edit that, you edit that. By all means, if you're more chip based and this sort of, by all means leave a comment saying like this is how you do it, or if you've got a video up on YouTube how you do it, by all means leave a link. I don't mind. But that's how I've done my corpses. So right now that there is technically a, oh, there's a dead body, oh no, look, oh, I got hit, oh, I'm dead. And it works really well until you edit one of the puppets. You could also run the situation of, that's the spawning object, so you grab the spawning object, and you could go, for example, if you're only going to change the colouring of an item, you can go like that, then open the one in there like that, and then go, okay, let's run cables to that with all the different ones. So right now, that pelvis there and that pelvis there are linked together, but in that one, it doesn't have it doesn't have emit with wires. So when it emits, it's not going to emit the wires. So if I come in and go, okay, let's hide it so it doesn't overlap like that. Oh yeah, because I've got it open. If I change the color of the hip here, make it white, it'll change that one to white, but it's not emitting with wires, so it should still spawn it as blue. So we got this. Oh, I died. It's still blue. Okay. It took me a while to figure this one out. It's like, how do I do this? How do I do this? The easiest thing to do is just go emit with wires, which is that one there. That should then tell the emitter that when it emits, any of the cables that I've done should pass over. Now, ideally, I would use one of them and one of these. Put one of these in the actual puppet and put one of them in the actual dead body. So when something here is changed, it will then send a signal through that to the item that's going to be emitted. And because it's emitting with wires, it will emit with this chip in it, which will then alter what the chip looks, what the body looks like. So on the fly, where are we? View, that one. Come up to here. Open this up. Let's, while we've got the entire thing, so the whole puppet's highlighted, we'll grab another chip. That's a calculator. I always do that. Grab a chip, doesn't matter where we place it. So long as when it's attached, you can see that little, that red thing usually pops up. You'll see it because it grays out, because that is not active because it's a spawnable object. But that now should be part of the spawnable object. So when it spawns, it'll spawn with that chip, and that chip is attached to the puppet. You could attach it directly to the actual piece. It shouldn't matter where in the puppet you do it. As long as it's in the puppet, then we're going to grab the piece we want to alter. Let's delete them. We're going to add some new ones. And this is the reason I don't normally do it this way, because the amount of pain in the butt it is. We're going to go 3 receivers. We're going to call this one color. And before any Americans start going off their nut, that's how you spell it where I am. We're going to look globally. So anytime that is spawned, it's going to spawn this receiver looking for a tag of color. So if we come into here, now this chip is attached to this puppet, so we can literally just go, okay, there's a transmitter. Make sure you name this transmitter as color, spelt the same way, any sort of grammar, commas, brackets, all those are going to be exactly the same. So color, color, done. Then you can run the color from here. Wait, no. Nearly done it from the wrong one. The only reason I realized is because that's grayed out. So we're going to run the color from here to here, and then run this color from there to there. So right now it's black because it's not receiving a signal because it hasn't been spawned. But when it spawns, this chip will turn on. We'll then go, okay, where's this chip? This chip is here. This chip is putting out a signal of white, and it'll turn to white. But that's not good enough, because going to white here is not going to allow for this one. So we could do the same with that one. And this is the reason why it's like, oh, really? So we're going to add one for the other two as well. Rename it tint. Make sure we rename that as the same, but because we've already named this one as tint, we can just tab up and down while hovering over it. It'll then look around the scene. Okay, there's a tint. Let's go tint. Look globally. Then we can run the tint to there, and run this one from there to there. Again, don't panic. It's saying 0, and this is at max. It's because this hasn't been spawned yet. And last but not least, I'm not going to worry about all this. If you're doing it legit, you want to do hue, glossiness, waxiness, illumination, undercolor, densities. You want to do all these, and then it will copy it exactly. But I'm not going to go the whole hog. So we're going to go into this one here, again into the puppet, grab that section. That one's called saturation. So we can come into here. We'll just call it sat. Actually, you know what? Saturation's there. I might as well do it. There's saturation. Actually, I want this still open. Go to there. Tap until it finds saturation. Globally. If you want to make sure that these will turn on, just let's quickly wire it up first. Into there, to there, into there, to there. And if you want to, if you're worried that it's not going to activate, grab power switch. Make sure the power switch is turned on. Into there, into there, into there. They should be on by default, but if you do something and accidentally turn them off, having this here will make sure that they stay on. So doing that, this is now going to send whatever I change that to this one. It looks grey because it hasn't been spawned yet. So let's go out and spawn one in like this. Oh, I died. It spawned in, it's white. If I now come into this puppet here and grab just that piece and change it, which say to a red. As you noticed in the background, it's changed the spawned object to red, because that is now looking for this puppet's main piece and going, okay, what are those things? Those things have changed, change it to those things. And every puppet, every time I die, it'll happen. You'll see for the split second though, when I'm looking at the puppets when I die, it goes to white. During that split second, when that puppet is no longer in the scene, they can't get a signal, because those transmitters aren't there. Don't panic, it's only for a split second. The once the puppet is respawned, those transmitters are back in the game, in the scene. Those receivers go, oop, we found you again, and they'll reset. So if I want to even go further, just to show you, I can come in here, I've reset it. Let's, not in there, just to show you it's not what that is doing, it's what this is doing. Let's grab a generator. This chip, which looks exactly the same as this chip, at a glance, they're not the same thing. That's a manipulator, that's a generator. This manipulates a signal, this generates a signal. So what we're going to do here is use this one here, and by its default it goes 0, full, 0, gradual, up, down, up, down. That's what this graph is about. You can use these sliders to change it to make it more of a pulse, a flicker, or something. We're not going to worry about that, we're just going to leave it like this. We're then going to run a keyframe there, and we're going to change this one to, let's grab this and move it around to there while it's activated, and then stop it. So now when I do that, as you see, it changes its color. We're only going to do that nice and simple, but it's like, well, that's not going to do anything. So if we run it from the output to the power, so it will now, if I push play, it will power up and change the color of that from one to the other. You can adjust the timing, so if it's going too fast, make the sweep slower. It's going too slow, make the sweep faster. I should have said epileptic warning, but you know. So you get it, sit there, play with it, you'll work it out. So it's going to slowly sweep from one to the other. And to prove that the dead body is looking for that signal, I'm just going to, oh, I died. And you will see that they're both changing at the same rate, because those receivers and transmitters are doing their thing. The only time it will differ is for that split second when it's dead, because it's no longer sending a signal. That's how I do a corpse. Now, obviously, as I said before, changing the sculpt does not transfer. Doesn't matter how much you do this sort of thing, or transmit and receive. It won't affect one or the other. If you change this sculpt, it's female. You have to change this sculpt, female. Now, of course, they're going to be slightly different, but if, like with the underwear, you're using the tint. If the tint is at max, because this is using the paint tool right now, but if you go in here and you tint it up, it's all white. So you can still use the other technique to run it through. Just to show you, if I back it out so it's got no boobs, just say I want it to be a male. YouTube's going to have a media model fit about this. Let's do it not as obvious, just so they're happy. It's a male. You've got to make the other one male. Go into there. Go into there. Because I'm using the tint and not the paint, all I've done, it's different, but it's not different enough where when it dies, you're going to sit there and go, wait a minute, that's different. It's close enough that it's the same, and the color is changing the same. The second you start going to painting or resculpting, the corpse has to be repainted to match. So normally I would wait to that part to make the corpse until I've finalized what the character looks like. Then do the whole, come into here, let's make a corpse body. If you want to see exactly how to do it, go back, copy, like this, go into it, go like that, copy that, make sure it's not attached, group it, and use that as my new corpse. But obviously, gotta go back into it, turn the x-rays on, adjust all these joints, so on and so forth. Changing corpses isn't that hard. If you've done this one already and you want to add a new one, just go into the, actually, that one can be deleted now, can't it? Yep. Go into there, go to this one, delete that one, and just reconnect this new one to the new body. In fact, if you go back out to this, I'm just trying to, let's grab that, back out. If you look at the dot, which is at the hip there, and then you go to this one and click it, it's just using the exact same corpse, just it's slightly moved because where this button is, the thing is placed, will determine usually where the thing is. But it's there, just adjust the dot a little bit. Now when I do it, because that one's unselected, when I die, it will be the other one. But because I haven't done the whole, it collides with, it is movable, or I haven't done any of that to it, that's why it just fell through the ground. But it's like, oh, so imagine that this was the original one and this is the new one. It's just a matter, you know, come back in here, grab that, go like that, select the body we want to use, it's duplicated it down here, move the dot, so that it spawns the new one roughly where you want it to be, change the corpse. So that one I copied recently will just fall through the ground, but if I do that, the dead body pops out. Collisions, generally speaking, when you make an object, any object, boom, there's an object. When you first create that object, its collision, there's nothing selected here, which means it's an unlabeled. So if the item you're making has to collide with something that you have not touched, the odds are it's going to be an unlabeled object. So when you're doing that, if, for example, I'm already in it, that's a movable object. This ground here, I never made that. It's what comes in the scene. But if I open it up and go to, you know it's going to be an unlabeled. Because if I come into here, there's no label. So I've got to make sure when I do that, it collides with unlabeled. If it doesn't collide with unlabeled, when I go play, it's just going to pass right through it. But if I change it so it collides with labeled, and then hit play, it'll hit that because it's unlabeled. Now you've got to do that, or if I rewind it, if you're not colliding with unlabeled, make sure that you label this one by going into here and calling it just like scenery. Now this is labeled as scenery, so of course it doesn't collide with unlabeled, but it'll still hit because it's classified as scenery. And that's what you have to do with the body parts. So you can open up that, select all, go like this, grab the collides with, this is all these, what? Collides with, and it collides with all of them, so unlabeled is fine. Now it collides. Wait, I didn't because I just gave him, okay, yeah. So that there is an exact copy, so I can literally, because I've now fixed it, rewind, it's back out, grab that, let's select the new one, align it, we just got to remember the puppet was labeled as a machine, correct? So we're going to come back, make sure we come back into here, select all, it is not to collide with machine, just so it does not collide with the actual puppet. So now when I die, it's the copy. Oh, I never added the receivers, did I? You can add them as well. So that's how I do dead bodies. There probably is a way using the clone tool and stuff like that to make it so when you alter one, so they've obviously done it because if you get their first person puppet, so if I come into here, I call it first person puppet, it's their first person shooter puppet. Go into there, select this one, and select this one. Let's turn off X-ray. Let's turn off you all, just so I can show you. That's what you're seeing. But what's actually there is an extra set of arms. So when the arms come up, because they do it a different way to the way I do it. But when you alter this arm, if I come into there and alter this arm, let's grab a circle, and let's add that, yeah, that's all good. Let's add a blend. This, add. As you can see, it's added it to all the arms. So there is a way to do it. I haven't gone into, I haven't done enough of the whole this to go, oh, how do you do it? Let's go in and try and figure it out. But if you want to do that, uncharted territory, go for it. The way I'm doing a first person puppet, so just say I want this to be a first person puppet, is come in here, go to my creations, remixable, you can go first person camera, click. That object has a camera set in it, up in it, so if you come into here, test is if you want it to be always active. Visible is makes it so, if I come into here and go like that, the actual guide is not visible. Doing that, the guide is visible. When you move the right stick, it changes the angle. That's all it does. Standard, it moves to a certain point. Not standard means it moves further. With the non-standard turn, when it's off standard, there is a chance of when you look down, your puppet's going to freak out. So you stick with standard. And inverted means up is down and down is up. That's all it does. It inverts it. It's a simple way. Plonk it in your puppet. Let's leave visibility on for now. Come into here. Attach it to the head, so only the head is sharp, as you can see. Roughly where we're on the camera. Yeah, that sounds good. Gonna leave that all except for visibility. Turn visibility. Thank you. Visibility off. So now when I go in, it's automatically going to possess it because I've turned test on. So when if I look down, don't go looking abruptly down. It'll do that. If you want to avoid that, I've said it before, turn your movement off because that causes what that is. I'll quickly show you. Click on the puppet, that one, turn that one down. Use your own judgment. My favorite is somewhere between 5 to 10. At extremes, I'll go 15 to 20. Just doing that. It still moves. Doesn't move anywhere near as far. As you can see, I've got to move a long way down. Well, I'm moving my controller, by the way, using the gyroscope. But if I now die, and then move back, oh look, bodies! And because it's a first-person puppet, you don't necessarily see the body because it's a spawn, but the body's there. If you want it to be toggleable, and you're using my one, while you got the chip open, turn off that, and somewhere in your puppet, pick a button, or add a selector, because those are the ones I use for powering, and run B or A to test. That's an easy way to go on and off. There is also a switch over here. You could just run a button straight from whatever button you want to be the toggle. Just run it straight from here. Just say you want it to be touchpad. Run that into there. And then turn test off. That's the two ways you can do it. So right now, touchpad is turning it on and off. So when I'm there, it's third person because it's off by default. If I hit touchpad, it'll zoom on in, and there it is. First person. That's how I do first person. So any of the stuff that the puppet does, the puppet does. So if the head, for example, the camera's too close to the head, you will see part of the head. You can avoid that by going... Don't make the mistake a lot of people do, but go into here till you get the head and select it. Now a lot of people just go, oh okay, we'll just go visibility off. But in doing that, as you can see, you can't see the head. So you can add a keyframe so when it's in the camera to toggle this. But also, if I go into first person look down, you'll see the shadow is not there. Go into here, go to, I believe it's that one. Emitting light, cast shadows. Always. Now, it doesn't matter what you do to the visibility of the thing, it's always going to cast a shadow. Even if you can't see it. So if I now go back out, you still can't see it, but it's casting the shadow. And just before the timer runs to an hour, if I go rewind, go into here, when this is active, looking at this here, B is active. So what you want to do, this is the head, have visibility on, run it from A to there, just do that. So long as it's running, always cast shadows. When it is on the A, which is third person, or the camera is deactivated, it'll be visible. The second you go into the head, it will disappear. I'll show you this. That's the dead bodies hit me. got its head. Wrong button. Head disappeared. Camera comes in. Now, obviously, just turn the what do they call it? The blender off in the camera. Just come into here. It's not hitting here. To do that, you have to come into with the X-rays on, view all on. There's the camera just there. Keep zooming in until you get the camera surrounded. Left shoulder square. Transition time 0. Cut. That will prevent you being able to see the head disappear. When I now hit it now, boom, I'm in the head. Still see the shadow, but there's no way that camera is poking through that head. The head's not visible. Well, no one left a comment asking for help, but I've gone through quite a few. I wouldn't call them advanced, more like intermediates. The guy that asked me how do I do a double jump, I hope part of this helps him. Anyone who's trying to figure out a first-person camera, hope it helps them. Trying to make a dead body, hope it helps them. If I have to give you tips for the program in general, for Dreams in general, mature gamers, the tip is don't publicly release anything above a preschool grade, preschool grade type puppet or content, or you'll get moderated. For everyone else in general, test, explore, and try. Test out what you think might work. If you're not sure what something does, test it out. Explore. If you're stuck, like, what do I do? Open up the browser, play creations, go remixable. In fact, I'll show you. If you, not that one. What am I doing? What am I doing? Wait, I'm in test already, aren't I? Yep, edit, rewind. Go into there, public, and go most thumbs up, last updated, something like that. Type in what you're looking for. Obviously, I'm in my stuff, but if I go to there, at the top, you can go all last updated, most thumbs up, last updated. So there's the newer stuff. Just make sure when you're doing something, it's remixable. Plonk it down, see how they done it. Don't just download somebody else's thing, recolor and go, ooh, look what I created. If you use someone's creation, always, when you release it, in the description, say you use this person's creation, check them out. Something along those lines. Because there's nothing worse than you're browsing through and you see someone who's ripped off your creation going, oh, look what I made. They didn't make jack shit. You made it all and they're claiming it. I hate that. But I don't mind if people use the item, make it their own. Like one of my base puppets, they grab that, add hairstyles to it, paint it, texture it, add extra mechanics to it, whatever, release it and say the base was by this person. That, I'm 100% for that. What I might do... No, I won't. I was going to release it, but I won't bother. There's not enough in here to release. So there's the hour. I'm going to call it, guys. I do hope it helped. And again, as I say every time I do a dream stream, if you're stuck and you've seen one of my puppets or anything like that, like the guy that asked me for the help with the animation, he has figured some of that out by looking at some of my puppets. And that's the way I would prefer people to do it. The asking for help part, I recommend it. If you see a creation that someone's made that you love and you want to create your own version of that, ask them, how did you do that? What's the worst that can happen? Them to go, I'm not telling you, and that makes them a bit of a douche. If they turn around like I would, I'll try and help you if I can. Oh, how do you make a light that follows the camera? I know how to do it. I'm not an expert at it, but I know how to do it, and it involves using that sucker and attaching. Where are we? If I grab that, then grab a light, looking at nothing else but that, and go click on that, so it's inside the light, and then aligning it. Good English, man. Good English. Align it to the direction that is facing. Now, wherever I move my camera, that light is attached to the camera, because that global thing that I added, that facing, is the camera. It will snap to wherever the camera is, even if it's a camera you cannot find in the scene. So you can use that, get the settings here, and go, okay, it's too bright, turn it down, wider angle, more of that, less range, more range, all that stuff can be adjusted. That kind of stuff I'm okay with. Anything more advanced than that, sometimes I'm still struggling with it. So that's why I'm the expert at that sort of stuff. I'm okay at it. I get by. I can work it out. But yeah, ask. Do not hesitate to ask. Just like in life, what's the worst going to happen? They say no. So that's the end of the stream. I'm out of here. Stay safe. I hope this helps somebody. Catch you next time.